Government shutdown. Trump's fault. Republicans to blame. Trump, in response, threatens to cut jobs. Hell of a thing. Here it is.
Can you assess what you're expecting in terms of the job cuts and how severe they could be?
Yes, the president and I have talked about this at great length. While a shutdown is very damaging for real American people who depend upon government services, it can provide an opportunity to downsize the scope and the scale of government, which is something that we've all always wanted to do. And so in a way, Chuck Schumer has now handed the keys to the kingdom to the executive branch under President Trump to do some things that we would not otherwise be able to do because we would never get Democrat votes for them. Now, Russ Vought is in charge, as you know, of the Office of Management and Budget, and it is his responsibility to look at all of this and make very difficult choices.
Diabolical. See, this was their plan. He's telling you their plan. Put it up full mass. We talked about this on Indisputable. Federal government has now officially shut down. Once again, the number one employer of black people in the United States is the federal government itself. It was already effectively shut down in many corridors of agency prior to this official shutdown. So the speaker, Mike Johnson, is gloating over the adverse condition that has come to many Americans by calling it an opportunity for the Trump administration to downsize the federal government. Congressional Democrats demand healthcare policy changes that Trump and Republicans refuse to implement. So understand what's happening. Healthcare policy changes that benefit actual people. Remember, policies are connected to people. So these individuals are bragging about the opportunity to downsize the government, even though they have been effectively and de facto downsizing the government since Trump got back into office. But have your taxes been congruent to that downsizing? Are you paying less in taxes? Are they talking about you paying less in taxation? Hell no, not at all. So wait a minute. You have less government services. You have a decrease of government employees. You have a decrease of government maintenance because of the government buildings that are no longer occupied. But you're still paying an enhanced government tax and tariff. President Donald Trump told reporters that he may lay off, quote, vast numbers of federal workers and eliminate programs in a looming federal shutdown. The White House Office of Management and Budget had asked agencies for plans to lay off workers rather than simply furlough them. That's what the typical plan would be, furlough. As in past shutdowns, Trump blamed Democrats for layoffs looming at midnight, September 30th. Of course, he blamed Democrats. Quote, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people and cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. Trump told reporters in the Oval Office they're taking a risk by having a shutdown. Put the picture back up again. I'm going to say the quote one more time. We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people and cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like, cutting programs that they like. Why do Democrats like some of these programs? Because people do. These programs are at the heart of effective policy in order to do what is right by your tax dollar. These programs exist because the federal government requires that you pay them money in order to have access to said programs. This isn't about the politicians who like them. Even the contextualization of Trump gives you an idea of what's important to him or not. Because he's not talking about what's important to the American worker. He's not talking about what's important to the everyday person. He's talking about what's important to Schumer and crew. He's talking about what's important to Hakeem and crew. He ain't talking about what's important to you. He doesn't care about you. To him, this is a game. This is a game, and this is a power play. And who are the pawns in his perverted game? We are. White House website features a clock. It's a countdown clock, counting the amount of time Democrats have shut down the government according to them. Another ploy. While the Democratic National Committee wrote on social media early Wednesday that the Republicans own this shutdown. Once again, utilizing government resources for a political ploy. The shutdown came after Senate Democrats on Tuesday night again blocked a Republican proposal to keep the government at existing funding levels through November 21. The bill received 55 votes for passage, short of the 60-vote threshold to defeat a Democratic filibuster. Now, if you recall, the last time shutdown was on the table, Schumer caved in quickly. Said basically there was no need to even fight. These guys or whatever. Trump is only going to do A, B, and C. But now they have given you another offer at negotiation that's just as insane as the one before. What makes Republicans believe, what made Trump believe that you would say yes to this? Well, because you said yes to all of the other insane negotiations prior. You buckled under Trump 1 in year 1. Remember the 35-day shutdown? What comes next? In the Democratic Party, the pressure is now on Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. To keep more members from yielding to the GOP pressure campaign to support their 7-week funding bill and agree to negotiate later on the Obamacare subsidies. Remember, they're not doing replace. They're simply taking it away. That task will become tougher with every day of the shutdown, particularly as Trump has threatened to cancel programs favored by Democrats. Inside the party, there's growing concern about the damage that the White House Budget Office could cause across the country that can easily be reversed by Congress. Asked if he's concerned that the White House could do permanent damage to the government. Senator Sheldon, White House told CNN, of course, who wouldn't be? We have a madman in charge. I'm going to talk to you about the jobs that will be affected in just a moment by this madness. I want you to think about the scenario here. It's quite traditional. Trump is the villain. The villain uses the people as leverage to get the superhero to buckle to the villain's demand, because the superhero still gives a damn about the people. We've seen this in movies about superhero villain aspects since movies have been created. So now, instead of Trump going after elected politicians, he's going after the everyday person, threatening to cut their jobs, threatening to stop their livelihood, threatening to cut off their health care, and threatening not only them, but their children and their children's children and their children's children's children. And he calls it irreversible. So his threat is now against you as a leverage to get his power play back on the books. That's where we are. Now, I'm not calling the Democrats superheroes, but compared to Trump, damn near everybody's a superhero. Who would think to do something like this? And say it out loud and not be challenged by the press corps when they do so. Whose job will be impacted? Put it up. considered essential, while others who are considered essential will have to keep working and reporting to work. Many will not get paid until the government reopens. About 750,000 federal staffers who earn a total of roughly $400 million each day could be furloughed. That's according to the Congressional Budget Office. It noted that the figure could change if the shutdown is prolonged. Put him up, the director of management and budget. This is Trump's controversial pick. Russ Vought has been hit with a lawsuit to block him from using the shutdown for mass firings. Furthermore, the suit noted that this director has specifically used the threats of layoffs as a threat to extort Democratic members of Congress to back off their condition for a resolution keeping the government open, which is to extend funding for healthcare subsidies that will expire this year, drastically raising premiums for millions of people on Affordable Care Act plans. So they don't get rid of it by a law, they get rid of it by making it cost prohibitive. This is to stop you from being healthy, stop you from living longer, stop you from having the same access to health care as they have. Members of Congress, when the government shuts down, they still get paid. The staffers do not. The Griot reporting on how the government shut down. We're having to fight over the Medicaid impacts and Black Americans. Black Americans stand to suffer disproportionately if there is a shutdown, as their share of the federal workforce is higher than their representation of the total population. You don't think Trump knows that? Not to mention, Black federal workers have already taken a hit after the Trump administration's mass layoffs and firings that have already happened pre-government shutdown, as we have talked about on this program. There's more. The Black unemployment rate has sharply increased in recent months. I said this would happen on day one of Trump's presidency. Reached 7.5%. Black women have especially seen a surge in job losses, which has been attributed to President Trump's purging of the federal workforce. Once again, we said this would happen on Indisputable on day one. Now you have the numbers. My point to you is it's not by accident, it's by design. And when you have an intentional construction, which is your design, you must have an intentional deconstruction by design. That is the reason why you have diversity, equity, and inclusion and access programs, because they are meant to intentionally, specifically deconstruct the adverse construction that has been created. Quote, Trump and Republicans in Congress want to leave Black families uninsured or burden them with more expensive bills, so that billionaires and corporations can get a tax break, said Chiquita Brooks LaSure, former administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. CNN experts stunned as Democrats are ranking in support in shutdown fight. What?
Is Republicans have always been willing to basically say, you know what, we should shut down the government and stand on principle. But now Democrats, a significantly larger portion of Democrats say, you know what, let's stand on principle. What Democrats want to pre-shutdown? You go back to 2013, just 18% of Democrats said stand on principle. The vast majority, 76%, 3 in 4 Democrats said compromise, no shutdown. Look at this side of the screen. Look at this percentage that said stand on principle back in 2013. It was 18%. Now it's 47%, more than double. In fact, nearly triple the percentage of Democrats now say stand on principle as compared to 2013. We see a much more even split among Democrats. The 52% who say compromise, no shutdown, the 47% who say stand on principle, within the margin of error of each other. What we're seeing is a Democratic Party that is much more so than ever before saying, you know what, let's shut down the government, even if it means no compromise, so that we can stand on principle.
Stand on principle. Finally. we should have been doing this from the beginning. If we stood on principle, Senator Nina Turner wouldn't be on Indisputable, she'll be a member of Congress. If we stood on principle, Trump would not be in the White House. President Kamala Harris would, if we stood on principle. But we didn't. And here we are. So here's the principle. The principle is there's a fight for the continuing soul of this nation. The principle is that during the 60s, Rosa Parks needed that bus. So did the people who boycotted for a year, and they decided to walk to work. They decided to ride with each other when they could, carpool. They decided to make sure their children and grandchildren did not touch one of those buses in that year because they stood on principle. It inconvenienced them, yes. It was more expensive, yes. But it was worth it. I'm not saying we have to always do it this way, but if there's any other time where it needs to be done, this is the time. All right, Senator, thoughts here.
Yeah, Doc, so much to unpack there. I'm amen in everything that you said, especially if they stood on principle. I would be Congresswoman Nina Turner right now. But we're going to put that all up in the parking lot to be pulled out at any moment.
Yes, that's right.
The job cuts that you're talking about, 750,000 federal workers right now are on unpaid leave. These are people who need their paychecks. There's about 141 million Americans who live in poverty. That's almost half of Americans right now. And you got a president that is playing games, as you laid out, Doc, with the livelihoods of everyday working class people in the United States of America. I love your superhero villain example that you gave, and the underscore that you're not necessarily painting the Democrats as the superheroes, because I just want to remind our audience that the Democrats had ample opportunity to do some things that would have almost guaranteed that we would not be in this position. They didn't do them. And I got to always say that because we need to remind folks that we got to demand more. And that's good to see that polling, the Democrats are finally saying, stand your ground, stand your ground. 319,000 Black women have been laid off even prior to these antics right now, making it very, very clear where the Trump administration stands when it comes to Black people, and it's particularly Black women. As Speaker Johnson said out of his own mouth that these firings are a gift, saying the quiet part out loud. They wanted to do this from the beginning, and now they're going to try to blame it on the Democrats, and the Democrats should not allow them to blame them. This is the Republican shutdown. Doc, my stunt double put something on Twitter today that I just want to share with our audience, because I agree with her. Republicans want us to believe that the Democrats, who couldn't even raise the minimum wage when they held the House and the Senate, are somehow so powerful right now that they can shut down the government. When the Republicans hold all the power. Make no mistake about it. This is the Republicans' shutdown. This is cruel. This is a sick attack on the American people from all political affiliations. You and I are not, we talking about the people. So I don't care how you voted. If you are part of the working class, this is going to hurt you. And yes, Black Americans always, always suffer disproportionately in situations like this. This is really a shame. And just the cavalier attitude that the president has right now about, oh, well, we're going to just start firing folks. Just don't care.
And it's because he's not touched by this. He's not in the socioeconomic arena, nor are the friends he has or the family members close to him. And this is why.
What, Doc, I want to see the Congress not get paid. Because if I was up in that joint,
that's how you
I would say, you know what? Ain't none of y'all getting paid, and you are not going to get your health care benefits either until we get this right.
Stop.
And why do we got to keep doing continuing resolutions? They can't even do their job. And this is prior to the Trump administration. Right. Under all these presidents, Doc, they keep doing these continuing resolutions instead of doing their jobs in the first place. And that's all of them.
Yeah, and lack of leadership, lack of fortitude in their own integrity. But I said yesterday, here's the way you would stop a 20-second government shutdown is by making sure that all shutdowns will also shut down congressional pay. So the members of Congress wouldn't get paid either during the shutdown. You will find it quick. You'll find quickly that you won't get to a number 22 anytime soon. All right, we'll continue to follow the story. Obviously, it's the most important thing. People.